Welcome to HSR Motorsport. Hello and welcome indeed to HSR Motorsport GT3 Season 6 Championship. Today you join us for round 7 here at Snetterton. This 3-mile long circuit was created in 1951 on the old network of a RAF airfield, as is tradition in Britain, and ever since then it has gone through a couple of iterations, and today we are at the Snetterton 300, most recently recreated, or I don't know, modified, shall we say, in 2011, adding a few corners here and there to aid in safety. Now today It's going to be an interesting one. We have no AMs out on track yet, at least when I logged on to the server. So it could potentially just be a Pro-Am and Pro session only. We'll have to wait and see. But that said, let's just hit the track, shall we? I know it's a bit of a short intro, however, we have no time to waste when actually, yes, we do have a few AMs out on circuit. Only 3 AM drivers though, so I must have seen it wrong. Nicholas Mumtaz, currently out on circuit in the BMW, the number 18, has had some very good pace this season, and just last week we saw it shine at Paul Ricard, but unfortunately it did get involved in a few incidents here and there, and that unfortunately cost it a few positions. It cost it the race, well, I would say race win, except, hold up, just get my order right. Well, apparently the standings haven't quite been updated to show round 6 yet, so I can't actually tell you. Give me 1 second. Yeah, we don't have the race results from last week, so standings as such are still exactly the same as they were from round 5. Johan Huben leading at 118 points, with Nicholas Mumtaz in P2 with 115 and Aaron Manchip with 112. That was what they were at last week, so we don't actually know what they're up to this week, I guess, because the organisers haven't quite managed to get the standings up to date yet, which is a bit annoying, but hey ho, we'll just have to roll with it, take it. What Mumtaz is currently rolling around on track with Brum and Zilidis as the only 2 other AMs. They will be his rivals for today. Not really in the championship. Well, I mean, I say that. Zilidis is in P5 with 57 points as of last week. And as for his other rival, Brum, well, Brum has just left the session, I think. Hold up. For some reason my ACC TV is acting up once more. So we have Zilidis, Brum and Mumtaz, our 3 AMs out on track today. Brum is in P4, Nico Zilidis is in P5, and then Nicholas Mumtaz is of course P2. But again, this is all according to last week's standing, so it could change. Well, it probably has changed since last week, except that of course Johan Huben still took the race win and Nicholas Mumtaz got P2, so it probably is just the same order well, in the fact that Mumtaz is the top out of these 3. These drivers all have 4 minutes to go in qualifying, and if this is your first time joining us, welcome. I'll quickly explain how the format goes for tonight. We've got split qualifying, 30 minutes of qualifying that is, 10 minutes for the AMs, 10 minutes for the Pro-Ams, and 10 minutes for the Pros. And the easy way to distinguish them by the coloured boxes behind the car number. So as you can see with Nicholas Mumtaz at the top, he's at car number 18. The coloured box behind it is red. So red means AM, white means Pro, and then grey is the amalgamation of both of them, Pro-Am. So as you can see, we only have 3 AMs out on circuit tonight. However, we have plenty of Pro-Ams and Pros to keep us busy though. At the moment, the fastest lap is a 1:48.3 set by Mumtaz in the BMW, who we follow now, and is making his way through the second sector. And Nico Zilidis is a while behind, 1.2 seconds, and Brum is 2 seconds behind. So likely we'll see these guys at the bottom of the grid. Unfortunately, it is always good fun to see these guys in action with their own, fighting for positions, fighting for championship positions. But at the end of the day, yeah, today they'll they'll likely be fairly far from the front of the grid, unfortunately. So Mumtaz has got 2 more attempts at a flying lap before the session ends. We'll see how these 2 laps go, if he's got enough fuel for that, because remember, drivers typically go for 1 out lap, 1 flying lap, and then 1 in lap. However, in ACC, of course, you can return to the pits and then keep going. So really, you could then go for 1 out lap and then 2 flying laps. But there is also the thing of if you've got 10 minutes, you might not have time to go in. You might want to just keep putting in laps, fuel your car up for maybe 5 or 6 laps, and just do that. Just straight out go like that. The only disadvantage is your brakes will probably not be... Sorry, not your brakes. Your tyres probably won't be top-notch if you're pushing them hard through the first couple laps. So that'll be the big issue. The second one is that your first laps definitely won't be faster than the last ones because of your fuel. Because of course, if you're loaded up for only 3 laps, then your car is going to be very light as opposed to a car that is fueled up for 6 laps. But of course, you know, there are pros and cons to both. I guess with more fuel it comes a little more stability. With less fuel comes less stability. If your car's really twitchy on the rear end, you might want to fuel it up a little more. I don't know. Again, all these strategies are down to the drivers themselves. I'm not sure whether we can have like race engineers or anything. I'm sure a couple of these guys would love them, and I've used my dad as one in one of these races before, to be honest. Just asked him to do a few quick fuel calculations right at the start. But other than that, you know, I don't think it's illegal or anything. But here we go. Mumtaz across the line to start his final lap. Zilidis decides to call it a day in P2. The number 66 coming in early with 30 seconds still on the clock. Where is Brum right now? Brum might make it across the line for a final lap time. Let's see, Brum in the number 8 Ferrari comes across with 14 seconds to spare before he needs to come in. So he has got one more lap to go, essentially. Now, yeah, at this point, it's always the most risky part of qualifying, isn't it? You haven't quite managed to perform yet. Sometimes you're struggling a little bit. You think, okay, I got to give my all on this lap. I got to go all out. But obviously, when you go all out, you're pushing the car to its limits, sometimes over it. If you haven't been pushing the limits all the way through qualifying, you know, you're suddenly going to have an extra bit of performance that you might get to use. But at the same time, yeah, like I said, if you push your car over the limit and you end up getting a track cut, you invalidate your lap time, of course. Big bummer. So, yeah, it's high risk, high reward, I guess, is what you could call it. Mumtaz on an improvement, 0.4 seconds up in the first and second sector on his best lap times. If he can manage to keep that momentum going into the third sector, we could see an even faster lap time from him. We could see a sub 148 as the Pro-Ams now come out on circuit. You can see the grey squares are all out on track at the moment. They're all making their way around the circuit, and yeah, Nicholas Mumtaz will be the first of the final 2 AMs to come across the line. Let's see, can he keep that momentum going from the first and second sector? Will he defend his position from Brum? Well, Brum's already pitted, so there's nothing really for Mumtaz but to set a faster lap time, a 147.8, which will put him fairly high up in the Pro-Am ranks, as far as I imagine, as far as I would know. George Vasiliadis, though, he'll be making sure to get ahead of that AM driver. This is a guy that is absolutely rapid. He is incredibly quick, and he has shown some great pace throughout the season. His main challenger, I would say, is Josh Redhead, who is in the other Mercedes, and he is out on track at the moment as well, the number 9 in P15 at the moment. Of course, they haven't set their laps yet, so it wouldn't quite... those times aren't, or those positions aren't representative of their times yet. George Vasiliadis is only now starting his flying lap, and we'll go on board for a lap with him at some point this evening to show you what it's like out on Snetterton. But yeah, George Vasiliadis, he's just been unstoppable this season. He's only had 2 non-podium finishes so far. And for Josh Redhead, he's had 3 non-podium finishes, but he has got 2 race wins under his belt as opposed to the single race win of George. However, of course, my stats aren't quite up to date yet because the stats on SimGrid isn't quite up to date yet, the standings. So, yeah, they might even, I think Redhead has got another one, so he's actually got 3 wins under his belt, which should put him ahead of Steyn van Onnekere, who is out on track tonight. So Steyn van Onnekere, Redhead, and Vasiliadis, the 3 drivers to watch out for, the 3 championship contenders. We shouldn't forget Chris Mouchard as well in P4 in the championship as well, but he's not out on track tonight. Nick Novell is also in the top 5, doing quite well. He could potentially overtake Mouchard in the standings. Who else do we have tonight? We've got Ozduru and Lin, both drivers that have been entertaining to watch in the past. Both DSRT-RJB Solutions cars, which are quite fun to watch. HSR, same thing. 3 McLarens from the DSRT team, so it's always a bit confusing when I'm trying to figure out which one is which, and unfortunately the car numbers aren't always that easy to see when they're moving about on track so quickly. George Vasiliadis, though, as he comes past the pit lane, will set the first lap for the Pro-Ams. As he comes across, it is a 1:48 dead, essentially, and he's 2/10 off of Nicholas Mumser's time, which will, of course, tumble a little further down, probably. You know, it's always an assumption. Sometimes, though, we've had AMS right at the top, just like at the sopping wet race of... sorry, my brain at the moment is non-existent. It wasn't Donington, it was Alton Park. There we go, apologies. Alton Park, it was sopping wet, and we had AMS starting at the front of the grid. We had 2 AMS, I think, and we also had a sopping wet race at Paul Ricard, and that was also, again, we had 2 AMS, and we actually had an AM in P2 and an AM in P3, and that was Johan Huben and George Vasiliadis again, and Nicholas Mumsers. And actually, on lap 1, turn 1, we had Johan Huben taken out by his own teammate, Tim Miro, who's a pro in P9 at the moment, on the tower to your left, number 268 in the Aston Martin. Sister cars, I might add. 2 Aston Martins came together on the first lap, first corner, and yeah, Huben then had to work through the entire grid. And after Mumsers' issue with Ozduru, his little collision, his little incident, that put Huben ahead of him, and Huben won the race. So it was an incredible recovery run we had from Huben just last week. But of course, Huben isn't out on track tonight, so Mumsers' opportunity to close the gap to the championship leader is very high tonight, as long as he can finish. Because even if he finishes, he'll be on the podium. You know, it's a guaranteed podium for each of our AMs tonight. For our Pro-Ams, not so much. George Vasiliadis takes provisional pole with a 1:47.5. Stein van Onneker in P2 for the class. He actually took P2 overall ahead of Vasiliadis a little earlier. As he comes across the line, though, he has not managed to set a faster lap time. He'll be chasing that in the Ferrari. However, Willong Lin has just set the fastest lap time in a McLaren, and you can see a sister car in the background as well. That is Ozduru right behind him. Josh Redhead now across the line as well, takes P2 for the class, only 7 thousandths ahead of Vasiliadis. I told you these two were going to be close, championship rivals, so to speak, as qualifying now heats up in the final 3.5 minutes for the Pro-Ams. Nick Novell, not really doing too great. He's 1.4 seconds off the pace, and he's just gone off circuit as well, so that will invalidate his lap time, and he is returning to the pits, I think. Harold de Cook, again, similar thing. He had an off 6.8 seconds off his personal best. That's definitely not what's happening tonight. 0.2 seconds improvement for Ozduru in the couple first sectors. Well, the first sector, I should say. Sorry, not the first 2 sectors. He's just coming up on the straight now to set yet another lap time. We've got an improvement from Lin as well, the other DSRT McLaren. Well, I should say, well, I say other DSRT McLaren. The McLaren right behind this one, because there are 3 of them. Actually, we could potentially see all 3 of them in the same shot. There's 1, there's 2, and there's the 3rd one. So DSRT taking over HSR Motorsport. Ooh, I don't know. Bit of conspiracy theory. For tonight. They've definitely been racing like it, though. They've been racing like it. Anyways, Emery Ozduru across the line now. Can he improve on his time? Can he gain a position on Stein van Onneker, another DSRT car? No, he can't. He's still a second off the pace. George Vasiliadis currently on a 0.2 second improvement in the first sector, and he'll come across the line just in time to set one more flying lap if he has enough fuel for it. Again, you kind of need to keep that in mind, putting enough fuel in the car to keep going. Who else? Everyone's on an improvement, actually. The Cook on an improvement as well, 0.2 seconds as he exits the first sector soon. We also have a car that's just come into pit somewhere. No, sorry, that's still yeah, it's just ACC TV throwing up some weird stuff for me that I either just don't understand or just am not used to, and in most cases both, actually, both I should say, not just one or the other. Wei Long Lin with a 0.3 second improvement in the first sector. If he can keep this momentum going, he will set an even better lap time and keep improving over the rest of the grid. George Vasiliadis took a P2 away from Redhead. Again, those two rivals battling for the better position on the grid. Who will start higher? Again, everything up in the air. Redhead has said that he thinks Vasiliadis is a very consistent driver, very fast, consistent driver. And as such, I can imagine Vasiliadis will just be putting in some stellar lap times every single lap, but he has decided to come into the pits now, actually. So that is the end of qualifying for Vasiliadis. P2 is the best he can do. So now it's up to Redhead to try and improve and overtake him, essentially, in the timing tower. Well, he's on a 0.2 second improvement in the first and second sectors, and he now makes his way through the final corner to set his penultimate lap if he has enough fuel for it. 0.3 seconds as he comes across the line, and Redhead just 5 thousandths shy of pole position, and he does decide to pull into the pits. His mission is done. Beats Vasiliadis. Mission done. Into the pits we go. Stein van Onneker, another driver not to discount. He is 7/10 off of Lin's time though, so that is a decent gap, and Lin isn't going to be making it any easier on his sister car. Well, I say sister car, his teammates rather, because they're different cars, I guess. We have no other Pro-Ams into the pits other than Redhead and Vasiliadis, so everyone now on their final flying lap. Stein van Onneker will be the first to cross the line. Currently, not really any improvement through the first and second sector, so consistency at an all-time high. And once the Pro-Ams finish their lap times, we'll then go on board for a lap with one of the cars, an on-board lap time. And Nick Novell has just lost the penultimate position to the Cook, who's managed to improve to within a second of Lin. Lin has pulled into the pits as well. That's the end of his qualifying. Number 292, de Cook, also done. So at the moment it's only Van Onneker and Osduru to finish their lap times. Van Onneker across the line. He's currently in P5. He improves to P4. Makes the position on the AM. Osduru, the other DSRT McLaren car, has had an improvement through the first and second sector, but across the line, what can he do? He's 1 second off the pace, and now he's within 1 second of the pace and beats the Cook to P6 by 5 thousandths. Again, these close gaps between the, I wouldn't say leaders, but the fast cars of the DSRT McLaren squad. Now, pros out on circuit as Graniero now makes his way through the final corner, and we'll actually go on board with him for a lap. So here we go, into turn one, Riches we go. Again, all the way over to the left hand side, cuts a little bit of the curb. Again, you can see a little bit of compression, decompression there. Don't run out too wide because the curb ends quite abruptly. Montreal, sharp right hander hairpin. Get on the power again, plenty of runoff to the left to use, but again, watch out for the grass on the way out. Palmer, turn 3. Kind of early turn in, keep it, again, bring it out wide to the curb. Turn 3 now into turn 4, Agostini next, a left-hander. You need to make sure you're braking in a straight line for that one, because if you stay too close to the right-hand side on entry, you tend to brake in a kind of weird, wonky line straight to the apex. Turn 5, Hamilton, just a little tap on the brakes, almost just a lift and coast. Turn 6 is Oggies. Be careful you're not taking too much curb unless you're a BMW or Aston Martin or Mercedes. And then into turn 7, Williams, keep the momentum up so you can have some decent speed out onto the straight, onto the Bentley straight, as they call it. Car number 78 now hurtling down to turn 8, Brundle, and then into turn 9, Nelson. A fast and complex turn in early for this one. Keep the car as far over to the left hand side of the track as you can. Don't catch that sausage curb on the inside. Bring it out wide again through the long right hander of bomb hole, and it feels like it because it's a sudden decompression into a compression into a decompression, so you're literally bouncing your car through that right hander, and then the long right hander of Coram before you again have to try and get your car straight for the braking zone into turn 12. Murray's again, bring it out to the side and then straight down towards the finish line, and this time by Graniero will be good enough for pole, as it should be, a 146.3, and we can see Tamiro in the background come across the line in P2, but of course these lap times will continue falling. We've got no clue who will qualify up at the top yet. The times are still a little fuzzy. In terms of drivers to keep an eye out for, we do actually have pretty much all our championship contenders out here tonight. Graniero first and foremost. He's been absolutely brilliant this season. The moment he's out in front, he's gone. There's nothing. There's no stopping this driver. Once he gets to the front, he's gone, and he currently has 5 race wins to his name this season. It really is, considering it's an 8-round championship. Yeah, that's impressive. We do have some double headers, so technically it's about 10 races. Actually, 2 short, two 30-minute sprints make up a round. We've got 2 of those, so that would be an extra 2 races essentially, bringing it up to 10. So he's won 50% of the races this season, which is a staggering statistic really, especially considering that qualifying he's been strong at, but whenever you think qualifying you think people like Panati, you think Cottalessa, you think I'm not sure whether I should say Morrison or not, Morris, because he's kind of been a bit up and down. To be honest, we haven't actually seen Morris too much recently. He always struggles to get the qualifying down right, but when he does, he's out in front and he's happy to take the race win, or a podium for that matter. Another driver to keep an eye on is of course Alessandro Panazzi, who last week was standing in P2 in the championship. P2 in the championship. Again, solid driver, solid pace, just a formidable racing car driver. Tamiro, another car that's commonly seen out in front, that number 268 Mustang, very good as well. Tepanides, he's more around Vasiliadis' pace, and actually I think they share pretty much the same livery, so you could essentially say they're teammates, they're just different colours. We've also got Reese Valentine out tonight, the number 88 in P4 at the moment, as some of the pros pit. Cottalessa pit as well. Cottalessa also again a driver that just stunned right from the get-go. The Italian winning at... no, he didn't win at Imola, although it seemed very likely. He won round 3, so he does have a race win to his name at least. But yeah, unfortunately just not the win that he was chasing in Imola in round 1. He came close, he was right on Morris's tail. 2 Ferraris came across P1, P2, and he was right behind him. But yeah, unfortunately it just wasn't quite his day. He had an incident in the second race as well that just put him further down and crushed his potential at being an Italian driver in an Italian car to win the race. However, the other Italian won the race. This Italian, Christian Graniero, won the second race at Imola, so he kept the patriotism alive. And hopefully today, for his sake, he can continue to do so, racing for Italy as he comes across the line in just a few moments. He sets a 145.9, but across the line there is no improvement for him. Reese Valentine is on a seemingly good lap through the first sector, on a 4/10 improvement already. And Valentine, again, one of those drivers that's more in the mid-pack, but we've seen some good stuff from him as well. We've seen some entertaining races from the man in the pink McLaren, the number 88, now into the second sector, and he's lost a 10th in the second sector, so hopefully he doesn't lose too many as he now makes his way through the third third sector. Talking with a lisp now. Third sector and into the final corner. What can he do? He managed to keep the momentum going somewhat in the second sector as he comes across the line now. What can he do? Can he improve? Can he take an extra position? Can he take 2 positions? He takes 2 by 3/10 from Penati, the number 58 McLaren as well, and straight into the pits. Again, Christian Graniero, a car to keep an eye on, or driver to keep an eye on. Alessandro Penati, the rival, the direct rival to that BMW, and a fairly standard looking McLaren, but his driving is not standard. He is an alien, 3/10 short of Valentine's time, who is himself half a second off of Graniero. So Graniero absolutely flying tonight in that BMW. Great, it's the stability, I guess, of that front engine format, maybe coming in handy. Now Penati is on an improvement, coming out of the second sector a while ago. He was on a 0.3 second improvement. What can he do as he comes across the line? Any improvement? Yes, in fact there is, and he takes P2 away from Valentine. So again, 2 championship contenders, Graniero and Penati, going head to head in just a few moments. Cottalessa in the Ferrari. Out of the first sector, he hasn't really made an improvement, so he's hoping for a better lap time heading out onto the Bentley straight now. Mario Tsapanidis also on an improvement, 0.2 seconds. Again, this is the Mercedes I said, looked very similar to Vasiliadis, and their pace within 0.2 of each other. So I can, you could say they're essentially teammates, so to speak, in different classes. Quantum Elements, I think Vasiliadis is also Quantum Elements. Yeah, QE HSR. Yeah, so they are teammates. As Tsapanidis brings up the rear of the Pro Grid, but qualifying is now officially over. We have 2.5 minutes to go before it ends properly. Cottalessa is locked into P3 at least, Valentine P4 for him, but there is still potential for Miro, who's up 0.2 in the first sector. Alessandro Penati also on a 10th improvement through the first and second sectors, and Graniero pulls into the pits. The end of qualifying for him. Can Penati take pole position here? Can he suddenly, on the final lap, at the final attempt, take pole position? He is just within a 10th of that time, but that is unfortunately his attempt at pole position over to Miro, the other contender for pole position many a time before, is now making his way through the second sector. Everyone else has pulled into the pits, but the Aston Martin continues down the Bentley straight into Brundle and Nelson. He's on a 0.3 improvement through the first couple sectors. The final sector will need to be absolutely incredible for him to take a pole position here. We could potentially just be looking at an improvement, maybe into the top 3, maybe into the front row. Again, we'll have to wait and see how his exit is out of Murray's. Out of turn 12 onto the curb. Can he get the power down nice and consistent across the line? Where will he come out? It's going to be close. And unfortunately, still nothing for Miro, who is then stuck in P5. Well, that concludes our... ahead of us. Apologies, I just used my mic. So go grab a snack, go grab a drink. Get ready for 60 minutes of action to start in just a few moments. Hello and welcome back to the HSR Motorsport GT3 Season 6 Championship, and today you join us for round 7 here at Snetterton, and we are about to head into the race today. 60 minutes of action lies ahead of us. We've just come off the back of 30 minutes of split qualifying with Christian Graniero coming out at the top. The other drivers are Alessandro Pinatti in P2, Lorenzo Cottalessa in the Ferrari, with Reese Valentine alongside in the McLaren. Tamiro, the final of the top 5, with Wei Long Lin, the P1 sitter for the Pro-Am class. Josh Redhead in P2 with his old rival George Vasiliadis alongside. Marios Tsapanidis brings up the rear of the pros, Stein von Onecker alongside. Nicholas Mumtaz, the P1 sitter for AM, as well as Emre Özdiru alongside Ene McLaren. Harold the Cook right alongside to Nick Novell in P14, bringing up the rear of the Pro-Ams. Nico Ziludis in the McLaren, quite far down, P2 for his class though, with Nigrum bringing up the rear in P3 for his class. So AMS, yep, you heard that right, they will have a guaranteed podium. No matter where they finish, they'll have a guaranteed podium, as long as they finish the race. That's the important bit. So then what can we anticipate? Lap 1, turn 1 is a very interesting right-hander. It's yeah, you kind of need to catch momentum. You kind of need to keep the momentum going. It's more, I wouldn't call it a hard braking zone. It's like an intermediate one to an intermediate to light one. It's more just a little tap on the brakes, maybe a quick downshift, potentially 2, but then you're straight back on the power, carrying momentum all the way through to the left-hand side of the track. So it's going to be pretty difficult to overtake. The best opportunity is, of course, going to be into turn 2. This hairpin here, and that's going to be your best opportunity, again assuming you've had a good run through that right-hander, you've carried the momentum through and you're able to keep that going into the right-hander. Into this little section here, into the end of sector end of sector 1, start of sector 2. That's more your tight and twisty section. You can get alongside, but it's more a kind of quick little lunge down the inside, a little dart to the inside, and you know, that's all we can do here, unless you're side by side right from the get-go. So if you're side by side with Palmer, i.e. turn 3, then you can stay there up to about turn 6 Oggies, which is that tricky right-hander where you need to watch out for the curb. But again, you know, each car has characteristics which might help it in this regard. So for the BMW going through this right-hander here, which is turn 6 Oggies, he can take the curb fairly decently. He can take quite a lot of curb, whereas the McLaren and the Ferrari, such as Pinatti and Cottalessa, need to be a little more careful since their cars are a little more rear happy, shall we say. Then getting the power down onto the straight, the Bentley straight for turn 8 and turn 9. Next, we could definitely see some overtakes into here. Again, it's not quite a hard braking zone. It's not quite what you imagine at the end of a long straight, but it's more the right-hander that you need to watch out for. It's a really tricky braking zone. You need to keep the car all the way over to the left, and then, you know, obviously turn in to hit the apex. But, you know, yeah, it's just a really tricky corner. So if you can get down the inside for that and keep the momentum going by someone who's not quite as well versed, that's what happened to me when I drove the circuit for the first time. But yeah, you know, it's that interesting bit there. Then through the right-hander, if you've got that inside line, the guy outside is pretty much like gone. There's nothing he can do really to defend the position. And then into these long right-handers, it's more just about momentum and whether you get thrown wide or not. If you get thrown wide, that's pretty much the only opportunity you have for the driver behind to get past. But here we go, drivers are now already lining up in their 2 columns, ready to go, ready to get this race started. 60 minutes of racing with a mandatory pit stop. I did forget to mention that we have a mandatory pit stop for fuel with a fixed refuel time of 25 seconds. So if you choose to go for tyres, you add an extra 5 seconds to your pit stop, which is 25 seconds already. So it's pretty much choosing between a 25-second or a 30-second pit stop for these drivers. So here we go, about to get the 7th round of the Season 6 Championship going. It's go time, and we have 16 cars roaring down to turn 1 to start 60 minutes of racing. Graniero with a good launch. Alessandro Penati defending from Cotalossa straight off the bat, and there's nothing really happening too much. Oh my goodness, in the background though, Stain von Unikid goes round, and there's chaos now in the back of the pack, and Penati still leads from Cotalossa behind Graniero, and we've got a McLaren in the background making a move as well, but the top three all fairly nip and tuck. Josh Redhead in P2 still where he started. George Vasiliadis and Sapanidis swaps positions. Oh my goodness, and Tim Miro's just gone off circuit, and now he's a slow moving car, a slow moving target as the Pro-Ams now rip past him. Is that potentially a mistake into a braking zone? He didn't quite manage to get it stopped. Josh Redhead looking for a position on the car ahead. Lynn, I believe, in the number 36 McLaren. We've also got Reese Valentine pulling up behind Cotalossa, who's even closer to Penati ahead as they make their way out onto the Bentley straight for the first time this race. Further back, though, we've got Nicholas Mumtaz on the back of Asturu, who's closer to Vasiliadis on the exit. Getting on the power, it does seem as though Asturu has got the slipstream and will have the advantage into the left-hander. Can he get alongside by the time they get to the braking zone? Not quite. He'll just have to stay behind for a few more corners before they can get that stuff done. But Stain von Unikid, yeah, something happened there at the back of the grid as they were coming through turn 2. And yeah, there was just utter... No, actually it was turn 1. It wasn't even turn 2. It wasn't even into the hairpin. It was even earlier as they came through the long right-hander, the fast right-hander again, where you just had to tap the brakes, shift down a couple gears. Fast, scary, yeah, going side by side through there is very dangerous indeed, as Christian Graniero comes first across the line to start 58 minutes of racing. Almost called it laps. 58 minutes of laps. I mean, true. I mean, it is true. Osduru behind Vasiliadis. This is P3 on the line potentially here as Miro makes a move on Redhead in the foreground. That might put Redhead under threat from the other Mercedes of Sapanidis. Again, as these pros then come by, that means there are less cars between you and your rival. So Redhead ideally wants to keep Sapanidis behind, wants to keep Vasiliadis at arm's length, but he won't do that if he's gone wide, and whoa, that was close between these two Mercedes. You could see there was barely enough space for a piece of paper to slip in between those two on the exit. Some good judging of distance by Sapanidis in the grey Mercedes ahead, and he's made that position. So now, again, Redhead versus Vasiliadis, a battle that could be raging all race long. There are no pros standing between these two. Nothing. It is just going to be pure head-to-head battling for the championship lead here. Stain von Unikid further behind. Unfortunately, the other championship contender struggling tonight already. Not a great start to the race, unfortunately. Osduru is also not too far away in terms of the Pro-Am battles. He's currently P4 and right up behind Vasiliadis, putting him under some decent pressure. Up at the front, we've also got Penati on the back of Graniero. So there's that battle going on for the race lead, potentially in just a few moments. 0.3 seconds between them as we cut a little further up, and you can see, yeah, 0.3 seconds looks like this, and 0.3 seconds further down also looks like this. So we've got this three-way battle for P2 between Redhead, Vasiliadis and Osduru, heading into... Oh my goodness, Redhead has to take evasive action, and he's gone wide and lets Vasiliadis and Osduru through. Mumsa's still behind, but a single mistake has cost him 2 positions. That's just the nature of this circuit. Any mistake you make will be punished heavily. That mistake could literally just be as simple as putting a wheel in the grass. And for Redhead, it was purely down to the fact he was trying to brake. The car ahead of him was braking a little too hard, maybe. He wasn't quite... Or you know, Redhead was braking a little too late. There's that side of the coin as well. Either way, he had to take evasive action, and this is the result. Vasiliadis now on P2 with Osduru P3 and Redhead outside the podium finishing positions. Now, of course, with 16 cars, I might quiet down fairly quickly. However, I believe Ozduru will be right up behind Vasiliadis for a very long time this race, or might be coming past at some point as well. There's always that to consider. It is the closest gap on circuit at the moment, 0.5 seconds, and Nick Novell has had an incident on turn number 7. I wonder whether that is the curb claiming his car's rear end. Well, there's nothing else to look at right now real quick, so we can have a quick little nip over to the yellow flag. Let's see what Neville got up to. So through the left-hander, into the right-hander now. Steers clear of the curb. On the exit, just gets onto the grass, and that just, yeah, sends him lawn mowing across turn 7. Fortunately, no damage with the wall, no contact with the wall, no damage to his car. So Neville continues onwards, but unfortunately dead last at the moment. 0.4 seconds between Ozduru and Vasiliadis still. This little battle could erupt at any point. Same between Graniero and Panatti, really. 0.4 seconds between them as well, although a little mistake cost him a little extra time. Ozduru, though, 0.2 seconds right up behind this Mercedes. And that line on entry was a little different. We could see a little more speed into the right-hander of turn 6. Could we see a little dart to the inside with late braking? I don't think so, not this time around. The only time a little dart like that will work is if you're right up behind him, literally 0.0 seconds between you and the driver ahead, and you're just going to send it. Cotalesa lost the position to Valentine just a few moments ago. The battle isn't over, though, as they come through the right-handers. Cotalesa may be struggling. Let's see if we can get a replay of this overtake real quick, shall we? It happened just as we were watching someone else. So Cotalesa onto the curb, onto the grass, goes wide, does well to keep his car on track, but unfortunately loses out to Valentine, and it's an easy overtake for the man in the McLaren. The pink McLaren gains the final podium position and now has got that advantage. How about our other drivers on circuit, though? We do, of course, have Emre Ozduru again breathing down the neck of Vasiliadis, but it won't be long, though, before we have Redhead right behind him as well. Lynn allowing another DSRT car to come by. The Pro-Am race leader allowing to Miro a Pro buy into the top 5 so that Miro can start closing the gap to Cotalesa ahead and start fighting for those podium positions at some point. And Miro, yeah, his fastest lap is 7/10 off of Cotalesa's at this point in time, but we are only 8 minutes into the race, so there is plenty of opportunity, plenty of time to improve on that time. But yeah, biggest battle will probably be between Ozduru. Well, Ozduru just got overtaken by Redhead a few moments ago as we were watching the other cars battle. Let's have a quick look at what happened here. Oh no. Oh man, a little early. Sorry, late. So something happened to Ozduru. He was right up behind Vasiliadis, and yeah, now he's behind Redhead. So something happened here to the McLaren. And that's kind of the end of that, really. We couldn't really see what happened to him to start with. All I know is he's now down into P4, and Lynn has got no one behind him other than other fellow Pro-Am. So maybe allowing the pros through, such as Tsapanidis and Miro, was maybe not the best idea. Having those faster cars behind as a sense of security, as an extra driver to get past for the cars behind. Yeah, I don't know. Again, I'm not down there. I'm not racing at the moment, so I can't really say. Can't really comment. I want to know what happened to Stain Veronica right at the start, though. The 666. Here we go. Let's have a quick look at the replay. So Stain Veronica in the Ferrari. He's got Tsapanidis alongside. Brakes. Manages to keep himself out of Vasiliadis. Not for long, though. Just a tap. And he's sent sideways. Collects Nico and Nick as well. So Zilidis and Novell both influenced by that collision. So that's what happened to Stain Fononica right at the start. Unfortunately, something just, yeah, I don't know, just miscommunication, netcode. What do you guys reckon? I think, yeah, I don't think we can really read too much into that situation, really. Just lap 1 chaos, as usual. Reese Valentine is on a charge. He's half a second off of Penati, and gaining is actually a tenth faster than Penati. In fact, he's the second fastest driver on the grid at the moment, so we could see this battle for P2 between the two McLarens erupt at any moment as well, although mistakes aren't likely going to happen too much from our P2 driver in the championship. They never are far away though, especially at Snetterton and these British circuits, where a little extra runoff can turn into an absolute nightmare. Fortunately, the rain isn't here to exacerbate that scenario if it were to happen. But again, you know, you never know. I'm seeing a white flag somewhere. Yes, Nick Brum in P14 has gone off circuit, and I suspect there was just a bit of braking into the interesting complex of turns 8 and 9. Every so often you do get someone who doesn't quite manage to hold on to the proper straight braking line, and yeah, unfortunately it just ends up throwing you completely out. So at the moment then, Cook 0.7 seconds, well actually now 1.3 seconds behind Mumtaz in P11, 0.7 seconds between Lynn and Tsapanidis. So he's pushing, he's trying to keep up with the Mercedes ahead, the Pro ahead. Redhead is now closing the gap to Vasiliadis, 0.8 seconds as they head into the second sector. And further up the grid, 0.7 seconds between Valentine and Penati. Again, that battle might get interesting at some point during this race. 48 minutes of action to go though. We've got plenty of time for that to happen. So from the splitter then, through turn 7, just keep that momentum going. I caught him just too late for turn 6 where I wanted it. Ah, shoot. Anyways, half a second ahead between Lynn and Tsapanidis, but this is the rear view mirror essentially for Vasiliadis. He's got Redhead behind him. And under braking you can see, yeah, Redhead kind of closing that gap. Just a natural way that time works, I guess. Time equals velocity divided by, no. Velocity is distance divided by time. Time then would be distance divided by velocity. I don't know, maths in it. I stopped doing that a while ago. Well, at least commentator maths. Commentator maths is incredibly difficult, I would have you know. It's really tricky to try and look at the action and then do maths at the same time. You can do it every now and then, but you disconnect so much you could have an accident happen right in front of you and you have no clue what's going on. Stain Fononica right up behind the Cook though for P12. There's going to be for P5 in the class though. Again, we saw the incident earlier between Fononica and Vasiliadis. I'm sure the stewards will have a look at that in a few moments. So Stain Fononica though dropped back a little bit from the Cook, so not really a battle to keep an eye on yet. It could come through though. His best time is a 1:48.1 compared to the 1:48.5 from the McLaren ahead. But between Redhead and Vasiliadis, their lap times are much more different. It's about 6/10 difference between Redhead and Vasiliadis in Redhead's favour. So he is coming by at some point in the very near future, 0.4 seconds there. De Cook is actually dropping down the grid as we speak. He's in fact let Ozdu and Fononica by as well. Again, just a sea of DSRT cars now. Dominating the server, I guess. Look at that, 3 DSRT cars, 2 of them McLarens, 1 of them Ferrari, all working together to try and get up the grid. All 3 of them are Pro-Ams, so you know, fair enough that they want to work together. De Cook's exit was maybe just not ideal, so he allows Osduru and Fononica through. I have no clue. All I know is that they are very closely matched and are trying to make their way past Mumtaz ahead. Fononica has got a decent exit out of that final corner though, after Osduru had a rubbish exit out of turn 12. He is going on the defensive though, so no sign of fighting. Well, yes, there is no... Initially, I meant to say no sign of holding back here, and then they started fighting, and then they stopped fighting, and I was like, I was caught up between the two. I couldn't quite make up my mind, I guess you could say. But anyways, so we have got the result back from the stewards concerning Stein von Uneker's incident right at the start. That little spin, again, yeah, ruled as a racing incident. Yeah, I would call it the same. Although, yeah, at the same time, yeah, unfortunately, von Uneker, I mean, yeah, he was on the inside there. There wasn't really anything that Vasiliadis could do on the outside. So, you know, yeah, fair call by the stewards, as always. Do we have a few other yellow cards? No, those are only the same incidents. We have got an accident further down with car 29, which is Vasiliadis, right at the start. Let's have a quick look at what happened here. So this is probably that same incident. No, actually, it's the banging of wheels with Redhead right at the start. And then, yeah, he was over to the left-hand side, really. And then just chaos in the background as McLarens go off. And, oh no, actually, so Monza sideswiped the Mercedes, and then through goes the McLaren. That was entertaining to watch, the little contact between them. So yeah, Monza came absolutely barreling down the inside, and yeah, clipped him, which is quite interesting. This very same Monza's, the BMW in the foreground. And look at the gap forming between the McLarens and the Ferrari already. Von Uneker building a gap on his fellow DSRT drivers. Takes a look to the inside, and Monza said, take it, it's free, go for it, I've left the window wide open, and Von Uneker obliges. So that is P10 for Von Uneker, who's now going to be chasing down Redhead. It's going to be a tricky ask though. He's only he's one. He is 0.8 seconds slower on his fastest lap than Redhead. So I was about to say, oh yeah, he's going to be closing. Well, yeah, I mean, not really. Redhead does seem to be the fastest Pro-Am out there on circuit tonight. He's 2/10 faster than Wei Long Lin, who's currently leading the race in P8 for his class. So again, yeah, that could close up. Reece Valentine dropping back from Alessandro Penati just a few laps ago. He was right up behind him. He was within 8/10 of Penati at some point, but now he's dropped to 2.5 seconds. So that's not quite ideal for the man in the number 88 McLaren. But hey ho, he's got Lorenzo Cotalessa right behind him, so he won't have to wish for action soon. Or wish for action too much. He's got some coming soon at some point in the form of the number 163 Ferrari. We could also see a bit of action further up the grid between P1 and P2. Penati again within a second and a half of Graniero ahead, and you can see them at the bottom of your screen there in the foreground, and they'll be fighting for the race lead at some point as well. But yeah, at the moment it's fairly quiet. Lin within a second of Tsapanidis, but again, you know, that's kind of neck in neck racing here. Only about 500s between their best laps, so nothing really to take note of. Mumtaz, Osdiru, De Kock all evenly matched here. 48.3, 48.5, 49, 48.3 again. Yeah, there's not really too much happening at the moment. Penati has set the fastest lap of the race though, 146.4. So we could potentially, he's 500s faster than Graniero, so it's a question of whether he can keep that 500th advantage every single lap. That's always a hard ask. It's never impossible. It's not impossible. Could see him do absolutely brilliantly. We could see Reece Valentine also potentially get some momentum and get some good lap times in. He's on a 146.432 as well, so his best lap time also not too far off of Penati's time. So actually he's faster than the race leader at the moment. But again, down to timings, down to consistency. Cotalossa chooses to pit early. 14 minutes remaining in the race. We usually go at halfway mark, usually about 30 minutes in a 60-minute race, but he decides to come in early. So whether that's just a strategy to get most of the drivers out his way so he can have clean air for the next couple of laps before everyone else pits, or a massive undercut, a 10-minute undercut on the drivers ahead, so to speak, I don't know. Has he maybe calculated his fuel wrong for his first stint? Are his tyres shot? All questions that will be answered in time. But Cotalossa on his way back out soon, I'm sure. There they go, drop the car, and he's on the way back out. Where will this put him in relation to cars coming by? There's Novell. He's only got Brum and Zilla to worry about now, 2 AMs, but he comes out way ahead of them. Brum actually also pulls into the pits, so some strategy at play here. It's a 36-second stop for Cotalossa, so probably 20.4. I'm not sure. Yeah, I think that's going to be without tyres, because yeah, he hasn't really pushed his tyres too much, unless the strategy was just to take it easy on this first stint, and I mean, take it easy throughout the rest, just conserve your tyres all the way through, or was it maybe that he just wants to full send this next stint? Again, all up in the air. I'm not down there at the moment. I can't see their fuel consumption. We can see, though, the insides of the cars as Reese Valentine goes through a white flag. What's that for? The 888. Oh no, the 888 is currently on the side of the road again down by turn 7. Is it going to be a similar incident to what we saw earlier? I suspect so. The rear end of the Porsche may be getting a little tail happy. So through turn 5, turn 6. Again, steers clear of the curb. On acceleration though, again, the understeer just brings him out to the side of the circuit, onto the grass, and he avoids the barrier down by Williams yet again. We had an incident with number 8 though. What happened? Pulling out of the pits. Anything remarkable happened? Here we go. Was it that he crossed the white line? No. Carries through all the way. No. Nothing really to worry about there, as Von Orneker and Ozdiru are both ahead of Mumtaz at the moment. Ozdiru, the most recent overtaker, so to speak. So yeah, we're approaching that pit window in the race now. It's not a real pit window. It's more of just a pit phase, a pit zone, a pit time zone, you could say, for the drivers, and it usually extends about 5 minutes each way. So you'll see it at the 35th minute and at the 25th minute when there are 25 minutes remaining. When there are 35 minutes remaining. Oh, excuse me, I'm just really gassy tonight. And tired. It has been an interesting week. No, I'm probably the only one out on the stream at the moment, probably. But if you've had a rough week, let me know as well. Mine's been kind of a mix. It's been a bit of an interesting one. Tsepanides, also a mix of emotions for him this race. He initially had to do a bit of catch-up work to Miro, but he's managed to do so. 1 second off of this driver, and they're pretty much neck and neck in terms of lap times, but Tsepanides is now within a second, so I wonder whether something happened to Miro through the first sector. They have just come out into the second sector now, so yeah, we could see something happened here. Miro not really making any progress on Valentine in P3. It's 15 seconds away, so that's quite a big time gap, I think. 2 seconds between Mumtaz and Ozdiru, of course, just overtook him. And again, Redhead and Vasiliadis. neck and neck, even though Redhead's time is about 4/10 faster. So maybe just not quite consistency on Redhead's side. He has said that was one of his weaknesses before compared to Vasiliadis' championship rival, who's just incredibly consistent in that Mercedes. Let's see if we can get have a look at some of these other accidents. We've had 68, 99, 18. Cool, we've had an accident with number 9 at the start, 2 minutes into the race. Let's see what happened here. Go back in time. So this is between Redhead and Miro. And Miro, good momentum through that right-hander. Down the inside into turn 2. Easy pickings. Maybe just a nudge from the Mercedes behind. I think that's all it was. Maybe just the lightest of contacts between them. Nothing really to take note of. But it's always interesting seeing the computer try to say, "Listen, we got an incident," and then it turns out to be nothing. Just like it threw up a white flag for the cook, and nothing's happening. So where was he? Redhead. Yeah, he had a decent start. Not as much drama as some of the other drivers. We then have a yellow flag for Neville, but I suspect this is that incident we saw earlier. So out to turn 6, again, stays away from the curb, and just, yeah, understeers wide into turn 7. I don't know why this keeps happening. I don't know why this happens. He just, yeah, there's just something with him and understeer, I'd say, into turn 7, and yeah, there's nothing really he's been doing to create that as such. Yellow flag for number 292. What was this? So one of the SRT McLarens out onto the grass, allows Munters through, and yeah, that's kind of just, yeah, something that happened. Number 58, yellow flag for his Duro as well. To the other McLaren now. We've had one McLaren, we've had another McLaren go off somewhere. Into turn 6, just on the braking, just goes straight on, slides, and oh my goodness, straight into the path of the BMW, but manages to keep the car pretty much on circuit. There wasn't really anything he could do as such. The moment he lost the rear end, it was more of a passenger. So I would call out unsafe rejoin, unsafe rejoin. Well, it's a bit tricky if you're sliding all over the place. He could have held his brakes, to be fair, but at the same time, if you're sliding, yeah, sometimes the momentum is just too great. But into that corner though, it is meant to be like hard braking for that right hander though, and you're already under brake, so I don't know. Riley, my dude, how are you doing? I am doing okay. Commentary is getting more and more fun since I start playing around with a little more words and try and get a little more research done than I would before. But yeah, not bad, not bad. How's the golf? How's the golf going? How's college? Now, while we talk about this, we have to also keep in mind that we've got the pit stop chaos coming through in just a few moments, which I never cover because, yeah, there's just way too much happening. We've got 3 different categories. We've got 16 different drivers, all in their own battles, all in their own pit battles. All I know is we've had Cortalossa, Vasiliadis, Brum and Neville pit as, here we go, we've got our first batch in. Penati, Valentine, Sapanidis and Redhead all dive into the pits now. Graniero is still out. Who else could we get in? We could Zilidis in P14. We've got Von Orniker ducking into the pits now, the number 666. Lynn continues out ahead. We've got Munters also choosing to come into the pits. How about the cook? He goes straight on by. And Zilidis comes out on circuit now, still in P15, with Brum ahead of him. Again, we only have 3 AMs. So, yeah, again, if they can just finish the race, podiums all round. Nice. I'm sure you're very excited for the golf, Riley. I'm sure you've been practicing as much as you can, considering the weather recently. To be fair, the weather has been really nice outside, hasn't it, recently? Just yesterday it was about 20 degrees after in the UK. It's been... I think we went through a week where we were consistently sub-zero or roughly around 0 degrees. It was pretty cold for a week. It was cold and miserable. Graniero into the pits. Hopefully his mood won't be cold and miserable on the exit. Hopefully his pit stop goes well for his sake. But for Reese Valentine and Panatti, well, that might be vice versa. In fact, they swapped positions in their pit stops. It was just a 2-second longer stop for Panatti, and that allowed Valentine through. So Valentine potentially on course for P2, and if he can keep that going, he could potentially stand a chance at the race win here, going slideways through that right-hander, well, I say left-hander, into the braking zone for the right-hander. And yeah, unfortunately, yeah, Riley, there aren't many hams out tonight. Although, to be fair, this season we haven't really seen too many in total on track at the same time. We've maybe had 5 or 6. But yeah, that's pretty much where it ends. So podium guaranteed for these guys. Oh, and someone's just gone off in the foreground. Who was that? Was that the cook? Yeah, no. That was Zilidis, maybe going slightly wide on the final corner. So as all the pit stop chaos unfolds, we still have Miro, Lynn and Cook to pit. And we currently follow one of those drivers, the number 292. There are no minimum stint times or maximum stint times, I guess you could say, for the drivers. It's more just about making sure they have that mandatory pit stop under their belt. So technically, you could just do the first lap and then pull into the pits. You know, you could do that. You'll then just be kind of essentially dooming yourself if you then have an accident or something else. You can't really pit to fix the damage or pit to multitask, really. Pit to fix a few mistakes or try and limit a few mistakes. Panatti's just gone orange. There was some sort of incident potentially here, or there was a yellow flag in this sector. I don't know. Again, I'm still getting used to the ACC TV thing. There is a lot of info here and a screen too small to do it. But yeah, Panatti is 2 seconds off of Valentine, who's 2 seconds off of the Cook, who is 6 seconds off of Graniero. So really, they've just kind of stayed in the same place. A 146.4 for Panatti with a 146.7 for Valentine. So Valentine maybe struggling a little bit. So we could potentially see Panatti come past at some point in the future. Within 27 minutes, though, that is the question. You can see him, and Valentine can just about see the race leader as well. Lynn pulls into the pits. Cook still continues onwards, same with Miro. And generally, you don't go for an overcut unless you know you've got the advantage over the other cars. And for Miro, he's on a 148 dead compared to the 146.4, so there's not much there. As Valentine goes slightly wide into the hairpin, so does Zilidis in the background as well. Lynn, the cause of a yellow flag as it comes out on circuit, cuts to the outside to try and get a better entry into the right-hander. And you can see Vasiliadis in the background has closed some ground. Granted, he's now 2 seconds off of Lynn. Redhead 4.5 seconds with a slower pit stop, stopped for 37 seconds. Oh dear. So something happened there to the championship leader, essentially. Not good at all for Redhead. Again, we've heard how Vasiliadis has just been running away with it, really. He's just been incredibly consistent, incredibly quick, and there's nothing these drivers can really do about it. All they can do is just give it their all and hope that Vasiliadis doesn't come fly by. Right, let's see if we can have a look at a few more incidents, shall we? 343, you've had 66. What happened to 66? This was Zilidis a while back in the blue McLaren. We've got Novell behind in the Porsche under braking. Is it just purely bad braking? Yes, it is. Just goes wide and through goes Novell, and he did actually spin it on the exit. I guess just, yeah, trying to apply trying to apply throttle on the grass is always a bit dodgy, and Lynn has got Siliardis within 1.5 seconds of him. The battle for the Pro-Am lead could kick off here. The Cook is in the pits as another Pro-Am who was leading the race temporarily while he still waited to get his pit stops in. But here come the rest of them now. Will the Cook come out in P4? That is a question. He hasn't even moved from his pit box yet, so probably even worse, maybe even P6. Stijn van Onneker doing well to keep the pace up all the way through tonight. Cozzalossa is stopped on the grid. What's happened to Cozzalossa? Cozzalossa's just disconnected. What's happened to P5? We've just lost a driver. No. No, 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 no. That's not how it works. You're supposed to finish the race. No. Cozzalossa, our potential P4 finisher and podium contender for this race here at Snetterton, has retired from the race. He's just stopped on the side of the circuit. Something happened there, but yeah, we can't really show what happened. Number 163 was 163. Yeah, so this is Cozzalossa. I think this is the moment where he just pulled over. Through the left-hander. All looks normal. And then just brakes and pulls over to the side of the road. Something's happened there, and that seemed fairly deliberate. It didn't look like, yeah, something was going on inside the car there. Something big. Hope he's okay. I'll keep an eye on the Discord just in case. Alessandro Panatti and Miro swap places, as Miro is of course in the pits. Now in P4. And he is coming out just ahead of Lynn now. 6 seconds ahead. Siliardis now within 2 seconds of Lynn as well. Within 1.5 seconds actually. Redhead is now 6 seconds behind Siliardis. So again, struggling on the consistency front for Redhead. So your current race leaders then are Christian Graniero, Wei Long Lin and Nicholas Mumtaz. Some familiar names indeed. Now, another thing that is familiar about the circuit is the fact that it's a popular test track, which I didn't know. Apparently, it has helped develop some Le Mans hypercars, and it also helped develop some Formula One race-winning cars, including the Lotus 49 and the Lotus 38 back in the 1960s, and more recently, a couple Le Mans 24-hour cars. Including Bentley's first Le Mans car, the EXP Speed 8, and the Audi R8 and Williams BMW LMP. So they were first spotted here at Snetterton when they were doing testing. I see yeah, I don't know what I've never really thought about Snetterton as a track, to be honest. Snetterton is one of those tracks that I just don't quite enjoy as much. It seems like it's got plenty of nice little challenges and stuff, and in theory it would be a great track to race on. Well, I think that is Lynn, who's just spun out from the Pro-Am race lead. Yes, it is. Where is Redhead? Redhead now comes across, and Lynn has lost 2 positions. He's lost P1 for the race. Stijn van Onneker is now on his way past as well. Stijn van Onneker takes P4 as well. Sorry, the final podium position away from Lynn. As the Cook far behind? Well, the Cook is about 11 seconds away from him. 7 seconds behind Mumtaz and 5 seconds between Mumtaz and Lynn. So a mistake from Lynn has cost him the race lead here at Snetterton, round 7. Let's have a look at what happened to the 292. Yeah, a bit of an anticlimax. They don't have that yellow flag listed yet. That is terrible. I don't know why they didn't include that incident. Let's see. Was it this one? No. What is it with ACC TV saying that exits from the pit lane are dangerous? I can understand, I can see why, but at the same time, yeah, I didn't quite get why they keep flagging it up. Anyways, so quick little shake-up. George Vasiliadis now leads the Pro-Ams with Josh Redhead in P2 and Stein van Onneker rounding out your podium positions. Another battle for one of the podium positions. P2 is on the line here between Valentine and Penati. Again, two drivers that we saw battle a little earlier. Well, not really battle, we just kind of saw an overtake happen and that was it. Nothing really of note between these two. They changed positions in the pit stop phase, but since then, yeah, these two haven't really come head to head tonight as such. So it'll be interesting to see how this battle develops with 20 minutes of racing to go. Now, I'm going to try and find out what's happened to Mr. Garcelosa. Because that is just terrible. Like, that is just horrible. I don't know. It seemed very deliberate. It was very, very deliberate. It kind of just... He just pulled over to the side and stopped. Like, he was slamming on his brakes trying to get that car slowed down. So I don't know whether there was maybe an issue. You know, in the simulation world, we can maybe say, oh yeah, it might have been some sort of engine issue or whatever causing him to pull over, or a gearbox issue, but yeah, real world, I'm kind of hoping nothing too serious has happened to pull him over from a circuit like that. Yeah, nothing in the chat or anything. Yeah, no, nothing. So, yeah, at the end of the day then, Garcelosa just straight up leaves for no apparent reason. I'm sure we'll get some sort of update on the situation at some point in the near future. But yeah, as for now, he just straight up left. And that was quite a while now already. Can you believe that was like 5 to 10 minutes ago? Oh my goodness. Nick Novell. Where is he? It's not 10-7. No, this time it's down at Murray's 10-12. So I reckon he's just clobbered that sausage curb and he's pulled into the pits now. Is that a DNF in the Porsche? Again, will just have to be answered as time goes by. Let's see what happened to the 888. So just, yeah, on the exit through 10-12 on the grass again. That Porsche is just not good on the grass, is it? That was quite an abrupt kind of it just threw us into that. It just threw us into the spin. There was something that happened potentially before that as well. So here we go, going through the long right-handers. Anything of note here? Dips a wheel into the grass to start with, and then yeah, just keeps going and eventually just spins out. Ah man, his race has just stayed poor from the start. But here we go, Penati and Valentine, the battle is now on for P2 as we head into lap 24 for these guys. We've only got 15 minutes of racing to go, so there's still plenty of time for Penati to just be patient, keep putting in some decent lap times, just use pure pace to get past Valentine ahead. But of course, there is the racer inside of me who wants to beat him on a fair play ground and just absolutely, well, I say fair play ground, just send it up the inside of him really. That's kind of the best way to do it, isn't it? Or round the outside, any way to get past him other than just using pure pace, i.e. your exits on the straight, which is still fairly, fairly satisfying. But yeah, he's got the time now to fight. Tsapanides behind Redhead after something happened here to the EQ car, the QE car, and Redhead just allows him through just because, there's the pace difference. But Penati, yeah, a second between himself and Valentine, so Have I commentator cursed this? have I said, oh yeah, he might take a different strategy, you know, he can chill out, and now he's going to chill out way too much? I hope not. I'd still love to see a battle between these two. They didn't quite go alongside. They didn't quite have a battle. But yeah, it's been fairly tame tonight. All relatively calm on track. We only had a few turn 1 incidents. We have... Really, the overtakes tonight have all just been mistakes from the car ahead, really. It's been drivers that make that dip a wheel into the grass, and that's all. So for Nick Novell, who's currently in the pits, and I think done for this evening, he's spun out about 3 times that we've seen on stream due to understeering into some grass, and that's it. And of course, you know, the Porsche being so happy on the rear end is just happy to oblige with a little spin, go around once more. So he's still in the pits. He's currently 200 seconds in the pits on the dot, pretty much. So yeah, I'm not sure he's coming back out. Maybe not quite happy to get that mentioned on the stream. So we'll bring our attention away from him. Joppler, hello mate. Thank you for the support. I'm hoping to see you back in action again. It'll be great to see you out on track again. Yeah, it's been very quiet. Yeah, Snetterton is just one of those tracks, isn't it, as well? And I have a feeling next week is going to be even quieter, because next week we are at the Green Hill. Next week we're at the Nürburgring Nordschleife, and you know how attendance is always there. It's always funny to see how people tend to not show up for these tricky races, the races where, or the tracks really, where it challenges you the most. Nick Brum finding it challenging to keep it on track down at turn number 4. Agostini struggling to get his car back on track in the first place, doing well to try and rejoin safely, but instead he gives up and ends to the pits. Again, potentially an early finish here tonight. I have no clue. Let's see what happened to him a little earlier. Oh, so was there maybe contact between the Mercedes and the Ferrari? Oh my goodness, yeah, there was, between a different Mercedes and this Ferrari as well, coming across an unsafe rejoin, you could say. And yeah, I mean, in those scenarios, it is very difficult to stay stationary. To be, you know, in all fairness, it is very difficult to stay stationary in such a scenario. You know, you're just trying not to die. Stijn van Onneker made his way past Lynn for P8 over. Well, no, actually, this is Lynn catching back up to the back of van Onneker. And yeah, I mean, Joppler, yeah, your point stands for pretty much everyone. I don't think anyone really enjoys Snetterton here. Maybe anyone other than Penati, who's currently with the fastest lap right up behind Valentine. So we could see a battle coming up here. You know, could potentially love it soon. I mean, to be fair, the first time I drove Snetterton here in ACC, I absolutely hated it. I was rubbish at it, and somehow that was my first race win of the season. But here we go, Penati chasing a podium, a better position for this season, going around the outside into turn 8 through the fast left-hander. He's got the inside for that next right-hander. It's pretty much done and dusted. Penati takes P2 away from Valentine and round 7 here at Snetterton. With 10 minutes to go, I'm sure he will hold on to that position for the time being, and his fastest lap is about a 10th faster than Valentine. So again, down to consistency, down to making no mistakes. That's the only way he's going to stay ahead of Valentine at this point in time. Yeah, Nürburgring, I don't know why people hate it. It's brilliant. I love the Nordschleife, it's great. I think, yeah, people get a little too picky about their championship standings and so on and so forth, and so end up then deciding, oh no, I'm not going to race because I'm going to use my drop round, because I'm going to end up dropping some points anyways. Well, if you just keep racing every single race, no matter where you finish, you could potentially, you know, you just end up with more points than usual. I mean, that's how I got that's how I managed to finish P2 in this very same championship last season overall, not just Pro-Ams or AMs. This was P2 in the pros. It was purely down to the fact that I was willing to show up for those races that no one else wanted to. To be fair, that's the reason I got 2 podiums. I could have potentially gotten a race win in Silverstone as well if it weren't for 2 drivers showing up for the last race unannounced. Oh, shoot, damn it. But hey ho, it is what it is. It was still great to race these guys. I mean, to be fair, yeah, it was great fun. It's always great fun racing with these guys, and I'm sure they also all still enjoy it. So even though the grids might be small, it's still track time. You still get to rip it round in some of these 500 horsepower cars. They are brilliant to drive, and it's just unlike any other sport, really. It's the one sport where you just keep going right to the end, and you just got to keep going. And Lynn, something's happened to Lynn as well. Lynn has retired from the session too. Maybe another disconnection for him. So this means that the Cook and Osduru gain another position as well. Brum also left, and Novell also left. Yeah, so at the moment we only have 12 drivers remaining, having started with 17 at the start. It's not a great turnout to start with, and then we have the usual Snetterton chaos, which has brought down the numbers even further. Let's see, was this the incident? I think this might be the incident with Lynn. So out to turn 2, got the power down, over to the right hand side for turn 3, through the left hander, and just goes wide. Does he end up hitting the wall? Did he hit the wall? Yeah, I think so, and then just right on the edge and leaves. So yeah, Lynn out of the running for a potential podium position. Even though he was behind a Munter, there's always potential with the final 10 minutes of the race. That's how he lost the race lead to start with, wasn't it? He spun and lost the race lead to Vasiliadis. He lost it to Redhead. He then lost the final podium position to Fononica as well, as he's trying to get back on track. So, it's never done and dusted. It's never over. And actually, that's the reason I managed to get my first race win here as well. Was just pure luck. The guy that was leading the championship, leading the race, crashed out, and my nearest rival, who was actually Josh Redhead at the time, he disconnected. So I'm actually really happy to see he's still out there, and he's currently P2. He's still up there. He's doing well. But yeah, that's how I got mine. So just never give up. Just keep going, even though. I think it's actually a good idea to say you'll get a penalty if you choose to DNF voluntarily. I mean, as in do it on purpose, if you get what I mean. Let's say you just left because I'm dead last, I'm not going to win anything, that kind of thing, that kind of behaviour. That you never get anywhere with that kind of behaviour in the first place, which is why I appreciate that kind of thing as well. But at the same time, yeah, you just never know. You just never know what could happen on the final lap, final 2 laps, final 3 laps, final 6 minutes of the race. Anything can happen. And they actually have that in one of the endurance championships I'm taking part in, the Owned Endurance Championship actually, where they say if you leave, or if you quit the race with no valid reason, then you'll get penalised, or I think it was you might get dropped from the next race. I think you get a points penalty. I think that's how it works. That makes the most sense. But yeah, it just means that you don't get the drivers who are rubbish sportsmen, and they just go, I'm not going to win it tonight, just leave, kind of thing. Funnily enough, Redhead is one of those guys in general, one of the drivers where something goes wrong and he's like, nah, I'm out, I've had too much to deal with tonight. And usually, it's fair enough because he puts a lot of effort to get here in the evenings to start with. He's quite a busy man. And so, you can imagine any opportunity he's got to do anything like sleeping or, racing, it should be fun, 100%. But yeah, sometimes it's just, sometimes you've just been doing it so long, and yeah, I don't know, there's just something about it that just sometimes just doesn't kind of hit as it usually does. So sometimes it can get a bit annoying, I can appreciate that. But yeah, Redhead, frustratingly close to the back of Tapanidis within a second, still trying to make his way past a pro. and 1.5 seconds between Valentine and Penati. So yeah, Penati's gone. He's made his way past and he's staying ahead. In the meantime, Christian Graniero leads by 12 seconds in the Pro class, and then of course we have got George Vasiliadis, our Pro-Am leader, in P5, and then Nicholas Mumtaz, our Am leader, in P9. So again, very familiar names. We've seen Graniero, we've seen Vasiliadis, we've seen Mumtaz, all three on top. So yeah, kind of, you know, the guys that are usually up there now. But yeah, Doppler, it'll be great to see in. It'll be great to see you next season, or out on track. I don't know. Depends what happens. I might start getting more involved with racing. I don't know. We'll see what happens. 4 minutes to go as we wait to see what happens with the final results. Christian Graniero making his way through the second sector now. Where is he going to come out when that timer strikes 2 minutes, or 1 minute and 46 seconds, 0.5 to be exact? I think we've got another 2 to 3 laps to go. I think another 2 laps. So I think this could be the penultimate lap, depending on. Could be the penultimate penultimate lap, depending on the pace of Graniero. What he could do is just delay this next lap, just allow some time to run out, and then make that next lap the final lap. I've seen some strategies from drivers in the real life do this. They just run down that timer, use a little bit of the time they've got to the car behind. But usually, you know, you still just want to go full send. You know, you usually just want to keep going at the same pace. Not full send as such, you know, especially considering that you're leading the race, you're faster than everyone else. But you know, there's that kind of thought of, I've got time, I can chill out a little bit. But then again, on the other side of things, there's the whole psychological thing about you then acting differently, you're then making mistakes because you're not doing what you usually are when you're trying to keep the car on the limit. But it looks like Graniero is just full sending it at the moment, just keeping that consistency up. Again, close gap between the McLaren, the 292, and Mumtaz in the number 18 BMW, I should say, not McLaren. And they're having their own little battle for P9. And yeah, there are only 2 AMs out on circuit, Mumtaz and Ziludis, the final 2 AMs standing. Hopefully, we'll see a few more drivers next week at the Nürburgring, because I'm not going to lie, it was a bit disappointing seeing the amount of drivers that turned up tonight. More interesting though, Graniero is now making his way down the pit straight with 2 minutes on the clock. So we are still going to have an extra 2 minutes, an extra 2 laps of racing. Final 2 laps here at Snetterton. And I'm not going to lie, it has been a long evening. It's been a bit of a slog, I'm not going to lie. The action hasn't been too great. The only overtakes we've really seen are Dita overtakes. Let's see if we can get a look at some of these other incidents. Ziludis again. Through turn 7, out onto the Bentley straight. Blue flagged for Vasiliadis. Pulls over to the inside. And yeah, just allows the Mercedes through. Easy peasy, gets out onto the grass. Nothing else. Oh, actually. Yeah, leader on last lap, apparently. So even though we will have essentially 10 seconds on the clock by the time he comes past. Yeah, final lap then. Can he believe it? So Graniero and all of that just stayed consistent. He's still 12 seconds ahead of Penati, his championship rival, and he continues to lead both the race and the championship with 1 round to go. Victory is almost assured for the driver in the 78. It'll be down to Penati and of course Cotalessa, Miro, Valentine, and the other pro drivers to put an end to that. Making his way around the final corner now into turn 12, and once again just staying consistent is the way to go, and Graniero wins round 7 of the HSR Motorsport GT3 Season 6 Championship. Graniero wins round 7. Or whether... Or is it another lap? You got to be kidding me. The guy told me it was a final lap. What is he saying? I should have just gone with my gut with my initial statement. So he's still going. Everyone's still going. Don't mind me. Don't mind me. A premature announcement. So it'll be incredibly funny if well, I say funny. It won't be funny if Graniero crashes out on the final lap. But you could see the irony there if it were to happen. You know, if it were to happen. Now, I didn't actually get round to talking about this much, but one thing that I found one thing that I noticed when I was racing at Snetterton, the one time that I raced at Snetterton, I should say, is the aptitude of getting a puncture on the right hand side of your car, both front and rear, especially on the curb through turn 6. As you try and use that curb, car number 88 has just spun. Reese Valentine spun again. Last lap chaos. I told you things can happen. Never discount the last lap chaos. So Valentine still in P3 though, so next to no damage for him, and he's still in P3, so fortunately nothing too major for him. But here we go, Graniero now through the final corner for the final time this race, I'm sure of it. And Graniero now comes across the line to win round 7 here at Snetterton. It's the 6th race win of the season for him. On to the Nürburgring and on to the final race of the season next week. Penati P2, again trying to keep that battle for the championship lead alive, and we could potentially see that go massive into a massive track such as the Nürburgring. Reese Valentine very stoked with his results. P3, the final podium position for this pro driver. The number 88 takes a well-deserved P3. George Vasiliadis will be the Pro-Am driver to come across the line next. The next race winner for this evening. It's been a bit of an up and down race for him. Start, had a few incidents with some other cars. Not really too much though. No penalties to speak of. But now, as he makes his way through the final corner, Redhead initially seemed to challenge. But at the end of the day, Vasiliadis' consistency just shone and allowed him the race win here at Snetterton for round 7. Vasiliadis, your Pro-Am race winner, with Marius Sapanidis coming across the line next, and Josh Redhead taking a podium finish here at Snetterton as well. Stein von Onneker also comes across the line to take a podium finish, and next will be Nicholas Montas, who is just making his way around the final corner, and again, consistency, the aim of the game tonight. And Nicholas Montas in the number 18 comes across to take the race win for the AM class and wins round 7 of the GT3 Season 6 Championship for HSR Motorsport. And Nico Zilidis has made his way across, the final driver, but here we go, Osuru will be the final driver to come across the line, and he's also had a few moments tonight, but it's ultimately P5 for one of the DSR Team McLaren cars. And that concludes our race here at Snetterton for round 7 of the GT3 Season 6 Championship. Join us next week for the season finale at the Nordschleife, and hopefully we'll have a little more action to show you guys. Until then, we'll see you all later. Good night.